I always screw this part up. Getting to the chat real quick is always like a nightmare for me. But looks like I'm there, I think. I think we're live. Do you see chat?
Oh, I already had chat open.
Oh, man, I always suck at that.
So I don't know. We might be live. Are we on the internet?
Are we on the interweb? I don't even have... Oh, man. Why do I always do this? Well, I'll let you say hi to some people.
Oh, hey. Hey, everybody. Who don't I know in the chat? Jay Orsdy. I don't know who that is. Annika O'Brien. I don't know who that is. She got a check mark.
Seems to be around quite often.
She's verified. That's good.
I would love folks to get to my own chat. That would be amazing.
That'd be a thing we could go into.
I'm here. Hello. All right. So is Joel. We're all here. 34 people watching so far. That was quick. I didn't get to say hi to anybody because I'm a big dum-dum, but I figured it out. And Big Texas Tanks, I saw his super chat for you.
Oh, yeah.
So he's in the house. Savannah, I got no wrenches yet. Oh, except for you. Who's here? That's you're the own Q&A, and you're also the moderator for this whole live stream already. So that should be pretty easy. Dank Tanks is in the house.
Yeah, I can just tell people like, oh yeah, no, sorry, we're not going to answer that today.
Yeah, exactly. So I am sure that basically everybody here already knows who you are. You've been killing it on YouTube for lots of years, and as of recently been really friggin' skyrocketing with all your awesome chat and live streams. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to maybe the one person that doesn't know who you are on this live stream?
Yeah, my name is Joel, and I run the Corvus Oscen channel. Whether it's pronounced Oscen or Oscen or Ocean, it's Latin. So, you know, we get that question a lot of how it's named. As long as you hit the subscribe, then you don't really need to know how to pronounce it. Then you just show up and watch the videos and stuff. So I know it's an ongoing joke of how do you say this guy's name? And it's like I don't know, it's Latin, so there's debate about it. The Corvus part I think is pretty obvious. I think most people have settled on a pronunciation at this point, but it is it's the Latin, it's both Latin words for either a raven or a blackbird, you know. So I just put them together many years ago because there was another gamer online that had Corvus, and so I ended up taking both words and putting them together, and then I eventually ran that guy off the boards, but I just never shortened it ever again because I had so many accounts and, you know, character names and stuff like that was under both, so I just kept it.
When I see it, I read Corvus Oscen.
Yeah.
I've heard people say Oskin. I've heard people say Oscen. I heard you just kind of say Oscen.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I've looked up the pronunciation so many times just because, especially because people have asked me and they're like, I was in college for Latin. I know how to say it. And you're like, okay, well then do it.
So basically it means raven.
Yeah, it's the crow family, basically. You know, Latin's not the greatest language for having specific words for things because Latin was essentially, they would just describe things. So like the word for bumblebee, like how to say bumblebee, is like 42 words long in Latin, because they're like, yeah, it's a black and yellow bug. It flies around. It makes honey. It has 6 legs. It'll sting you, you know? So like, it's not the easiest language to make heads or tails of. So,
do you speak Latin at all?
I took it when I was a kid, but you know, I never use it. There's no one ever walking around I gotta try and talk to. You know,
I took Spanish.
Yeah,
when I was a kid.
I'm way better. I'm way better at Spanish, even though I haven't used it that frequently in the last couple of years. Just from running restaurants forever, you know. I mean, If you don't know how
Oh,
to speak Spanish, you're gonna have a problem, you know.
Wichita Falls says Corvus Awesome. So that's also a great way to pronounce that, I would say.
That's a good way to do it. Yeah.
Latin for awesome raven. So this is definitely not part of my Q&A, but you ran restaurants? Because
Yeah.
I am a former chef who ran a restaurant for almost 7 years as
Yeah.
the sous chef and general manager of a pretty fancy restaurant. No chain, good
Yeah.
restaurant.
Yeah.
So
I'm a classically trained chef. I ran restaurants on and off for almost 20 years, like 18 years, from small independent cafes up to giant steakhouses to French places to Mexican places and all that. Yeah.
that is truly awesome. That's what, you know,
In
you've
the
done, because one of my favorite questions is everybody that watches us sees fish, 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 fish. What
Mhm.
else, like, besides obviously painting, are you passionate with? Or
Yeah.
where did you start? Have you always done fish and now you're a restaurant guy?
Well, it's kind of funny because my mom was actually here yesterday for Easter, and so we were talking about me having tanks. Like I had turtles and fish tanks, like chameleons, stuff like that when I was a kid. And then I think like as more often than not, during the progression of time when you're like in your early 20s and stuff like that, it's like I don't have time to do this. So you end up kind of getting out of it, because you're just so busy, being 24, it's like,
Yeah.
you end up getting into stuff like that. So then, I got out of it for a while, and then probably it's over a decade now. So it's probably like, I want to say like 2007, something like that, is when I kind of got back into keeping fish tanks. Because one of my good friends, Sean, at the time, was he was like, "Oh man," because he found Takahashi Amano thing, right? And he was like, "Look at this crazy stuff, man! People put plants in aquariums." And then he found Diana Wallsted's book, and then we just both got into it because we lived together. We were always hanging out all the time, so we just both started researching that kind of stuff, and we just got into, putting in planted tanks and doing all this stuff. And then, I think realistically around like 2010 or something like that. I don't know exactly the timelines, but I started posting videos that are terrible. I still have them up on YouTube. They're hilariously funny. Every once in a while, somebody will go back and watch them. But at the time,
I've watched them all.
I was knee deep in forums and stuff, and people were like, "Dude, you have to make YouTube videos." And I'm like, I don't know. I was like, I just don't have time for it. And eventually, a bunch of people hounded me enough that I was like, okay, fine. I'll like the very first video is me. I'm not even talking or anything like that. It's just me walking around my crazy apartment, just to show people on the forums, basically, like, hey, look, I've got like breeding projects in my apartment, and I lived in like the art district part of town, which is all like dilapidated and all messed up and stuff. But I had a cool setup because it was like a cheap apartment, so I just kept packing like aquariums in there, and the landlord like didn't care because they were going to sell the property eventually, so and that's just kind of when I started getting obsessed, and then I was like, okay, I guess I'll make more videos because every time I make one I always feel like it was garbage, and I was like, I gotta make a better one, essentially.
One of my favorite tanks you had, which was really out of the YouTube, or like, as far as I mean, I've kept fish tanks for over 30 years. All kinds of fish, up and down, saltwater, freshwater, way before YouTube, just like
Mm,
as a kid and growing up. And then, like you
yeah,
said, I went to college, but, I commuted and just got into partying and sports and stuff and just nixed aquariums altogether for
right.
a good block of time. But once I got back into fish tanks, one of the really awesome videos I always used to love is I think it was a 220 180 or 220 shrimp tank.
Yeah.
I think it was maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And
Yeah, probably somewhere around there. Yeah.
the fact that someone would have this giant of a tank and have, just shrimp in the
Yeah.
tank. And
Oh
that's
yeah.
how
I mean,
I fell in love with watching your channel and watching you like
that,
go
I
through all
tell
your
you,
building projects and this and that.
yeah, I tell you that tank would drive people nuts, man. Like they would go crazy. I don't know how many people got banned off my channel because of that, because they would just lose it in the comments, like they couldn't handle it, you know. But my breeding projects have always just gotten bigger and bigger. You know what I mean? So, and every project that I do does that. You know what I mean? Like if I got into hot rods, I'd be like doing alcohol fueled funny cars. You know what I mean? Like because there's just no stopping once I get started into something. Like you were
Well, if you're
asking,
gonna
like
do it, you might as well do it 100%.
right,
Like you're diving in.
you were asking like what kind of like what other things am I into? And realistically, it's like if I dip my toe into something, like it's over because I'm gonna go figure it out. Like I'm gonna go find the guys that have been doing this for 50 years. I'm gonna go find the best plumber in town and see if I can, if I can go just moonlight with the guy. Like if he needs help over his weekend or something like that on side projects, any of that kind of stuff. So and that's the way that I've always been. And I think a lot of people that have followed my channel, and I've been open about it. I've been sober now almost 4 years. And but that was also like one of the problems with my youth. Like I never had fish tanks like in my early 20s because I was on tons of drugs. I never slept and always was doing crazy projects. You know what I mean? It was like, and whether that's a good way to run your life or not, I don't think it's the best way. I think it's good to get honest sleep and get your meals in and all that kind of stuff. But I pretty regularly I had conversations with a lot of people. They're like, I don't understand how you know how to do so much stuff. And it's like, well, just don't sleep for 10 years. That's pretty much what it boils down to.
I'll be honest, I never sleep. I'm super hyper all the time. Because I just don't. I got 4 kids, I got job, house to take care of, and there's just never enough time in the day. So I always like what's the actual reason for me to sleep besides I need rest? But that's either here or there. One of the main reasons why I loved watching your channel when I first got into you before I even had like 50 subscribers was the brutal honesty that you brought to every video, whether it was you're just shooting your tanks. Like this was in that room where you had like all those fish tanks. The room was trashed constantly with shit everywhere and like buckets of this and like just giant hoses everywhere and cut up 2x4s. Was your honesty that you brought some of your real life to your videos. And then I fell in love with that giant tank where every single update was about whatever that carpet plant you were growing in there. I don't know if it's high grow or whatever it was, but it always started off with this is what's going on, and it was just very mellow and very calm. And I felt like I was into your life for a bit. And now you're killing it absolutely on YouTube. You guys are doing amazing things with the info that you're putting out.
Yeah, I think if you go back to like before I was sober, I just wasn't as focused on anything that I was doing, and not to say that a lot of the stuff I was doing back then was bad or wrong or anything like that. It was just not as focused, really. I live a much healthier lifestyle now, and it's just super easy to be like, all right, let me make something that's cohesive and easy to track. Whereas I don't think it was necessarily that way before, which I think appeals to a lot of people. But I think there is a certain point in time where, self-evaluation comes in and it's like, well, I don't know if I'm going to keep putting energy into this, I should probably just do a better job of it, either explaining what I'm doing or doing better camera shots of what is going on or, any of that kind of stuff. So I think that has a lot to do with, you know, improved success and stuff like that. You know, I think it's overall just a better product, so more people like it. You know, like,
yeah, and you're doing a great job. So
this guy isn't jabbering on with music playing in the background and like like dropping the camera and stuff. You know?
Well, it's an evolution of like when I started watching you, you were sober, and my first video I watched, you were 30 something days, and then it was 90 something days or whatever. You know, it was very early into it,
Yeah.
and you know, just listening to you talk behind your videos just got me involved in your channel. And then you know, you can fall down a YouTube rabbit hole where you're just like, you're there, but you're kind of just like involved in what's going on in this channel. There's not much now happening with that nowadays. There's not much personal. I think we're a little older, so maybe, you know, there's a lot of younger kids just like trying to tackle it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's just the advent of, you know, just more people being on the platform and people like figuring out, you know, the algorithm and stuff. Like, oh, if I blow something up, it's worth X, Y, and Z, right? And you know, so with all the analytics and stuff that are in place now, I think a lot of people are just playing, you know, they're just pandering to get an audience. You know what I mean? Instead of necessarily focusing on what they want.
Right. So that leads into a whole mess of my questions for you. But this is let's start off with this one. This is what I really want to know is
Somebody in the chat was asking if my mohawk will come back.
That giant mohawk that went all the way back down the back of your head.
Which yeah, if I hit 100,000 subscribers, my mohawk will come back.
Wow.
So I'll announce that here.
So everybody who in the United States who loves mohawks, please go over to Joel's
right.
channel.
It's actually just a joke. It'll probably come back before then, but you know.
You have a new channel that kind of takes away from your channel called Real Fish Talk. A lot of people, I watch it. A lot of people watch it. And what I want to know is you and Corey's channel. How did you guys meet up, and what made you decide to start a channel of your own, as opposed to just doing it on your channel or his channel? Like, how did you guys get that all set up?
That's pretty easy. That's a pretty easy explanation, and I think we've even explained that on Real Fish Talk. Is that you know, I've been in the area around the area for years. The same, you know, kind of group of people as Corey. Even when he was opening his shop, I actually went down there with a different guy that I worked for to check it out, like when he was building it. But, you know, Corey was being super honest, and he was like, yeah, I didn't really, you kind of scared the crap out of me. You were kind of crazy. And I was like, yeah, all right. And he didn't really like think much of it at the time. Like, we'd run into each other quite a few times, and he was like, yeah, I just kind of thought you were a jerk, you know? And I was like, oh, okay. But like about a year, I don't know, it might be about a year ago now, maybe less than that, maybe like 9 months or something. But, you know, Corey was like, oh, hey man, like cause I started doing the live streaming like a year ago. I tried to do it 3 years ago, and I tried to do it before that, but it just didn't, I never had the schedule to actually do it, which is always a problem. Like, if you can't actually show up and do the things that you're supposed to do on time, it just doesn't work out. It doesn't matter what you do.
It's called work.
Yeah. And so I was doing them so infrequently that like no one knew when they were going to be or any of that kind of stuff. But about a year ago, I just said, you know what? I'm just going to start doing these live streams. It's what I want to do. And, you know, in the vein of like old radio shows, right? You know, I've been a guy that's driven a truck a bunch of times in my life to try and stop being a chef. Like, there was a certain point in time where the first time I tried to stop being a chef, I became a street sweeper, right? And so I would like listen to radio guys all night long. It was the only thing you could listen to back then. There wasn't satellite radio. There wasn't any of that stuff. So I'd listen to like Art Bell. If you've ever heard Art Bell before, he's like he's like the OG conspiracy theory guy on the radio. But he would do like a 4 to 5 hour broadcast, like on the radio in the middle of the night. And it was like syndicated all around the States, but like only in really select areas. But I'd listen to like Art Bell and I'd be like, dude, this is a trip, man. There's a guy on the radio just talking about aliens and like, conspiracy theories and like all this crazy nonsense, like Bigfoot, Bigfoot's real.
Yeah. This guy at my work watches Bigfoot Chronicles on some crazy AM station, and all it is broadcasting of Bigfoot 24/7.
Right.
It's insane, but it's so compelling,
right?
For some reason.
So I used to listen to that, and I was like, man, someday I'm going to be able to do a show where I just like turn it on, and if you think like, so when we were kids, like Christian Slater did like Pump Up the Volume, right? With like his pirate radio station and all that kind of stuff. Like that kind of stuff was awesome when I was a kid. I was like, dude, you could get a pirate radio station, but as it turns out, it was way easier than a pirate radio station. You just get a YouTube account, a camera, and a microphone, and you're pretty much ready to go.
Press the button.
But like I said, like years ago, I just never showed up to do it at the same time. So no one ever knew what it was going to be. And it, the nature of the internet is like, if you post something up that gets like 100 views, right? Like it doesn't ever get passed on to anybody else, because the way the computers see it, they go, oh, this isn't popular, so we don't need to give it to anyone else. Like, cool, we'll just leave that over there.
Yeah.
So, basically what I did was like, all right, well, I'm just going to show up at the same time and just do this thing. And so I started doing it, and then people started showing up, and then I would have just like 100 people in the chat, and I just, okay, be back tomorrow and talk to you guys about whatever's going on. And then I started adding like video segments and stuff like that. And at that point, Corey was like, all right, let me at least like listen to this guy, right? And see what's up. Because, realistically, I was putting up a ton of content that it was like, oh, if you want to listen to 100 hours of me talk, right? Like you could just go listen to it if you really wanted to. It would just take you the time to listen to it. So he basically was doing that, and he was like, oh man, this guy seems like he's in the right spot. So he reached out to me, and I was like, all right, man, let's see what we can do. And we started doing like remote, like this, like how you and I are right now. And, we realized like for, like a one-time thing, it's great to be able to do like a remote, like Google Hangouts or whatever. But if we're going to keep doing, if we're going to keep if we're going to keep dedicating our time to a show, we're going to have to figure out how to get in the same room. So, I don't know the geography near you, but, his house is 66 miles from my house, but I basically have to like drive through downtown Boston to get to the other side. You know what I mean? Like
it's not a straight shot.
The straight shot is through Seattle.
Yeah. So it's awful.
It's the worst traffic ever. I mean, it's the worst traffic ever. I mean, just pick a spot where you're at and go just try to drive through a main city. Like, yeah, I'm just going to go right through here in the morning. But
66 miles, even in a straight shot, would still be like an hour. Anyway.
Yeah, that's an hour, but it's like, it's the great unknown, because you just have no idea, like, oh, this might take 3.5 hours. I don't know, so, but then, we decided, all right, let's start building a studio, because, well, we need all the stuff in the right spot. And then he was like, well, I gotta take all these fish tanks out. I gotta put these new ones in. And he was like, you know how to do all this stuff, right? And I was like, yeah, like I could start doing this tomorrow. I'll bring some tools up and we can just work on it. So he and I just started working on it. And
I did watch the sped up video of you doing the demo.
yeah, yeah. And so, I'm being one of those guys that I know how to sheetrock. I know how to frame a house. I know how to put the roof on. I know how to pour concrete. Like I can repair slabs. I can do all that, all the electrical, all the plumbing, all that stuff. I know how to do it. There's a few things that I just won't do, like flooring. I just don't do it.
Sounds like you should be getting paid like $300 a year as a contractor.
Yeah, actually, I did have a small contractor company for a little while that I was doing remodeling people's houses and stuff. Like I'm passionate about like doing those projects, but I'm not passionate about staying at them for a long time, if that makes sense. So like if I was to equate me to somebody, I would be considered like a set builder. You know what I mean? Is kind of the way that I like the workflow, that like, let's build the workspace out. Right. And then after like 5 months, I'm like, dude, this paint sucks. Let's change the wood. Let's put new tile in. Like, let's change this, So,
well, that translates perfectly into you as an artist and a fish keeper, because that's the beauty of fish keeping and art is you're done with a painting and you're like, yep, I've done that. Let's move on to the next painting.
And one of the things
that you move on to the next tank and you want to escape the next tank. And as soon as it's done and the plants are grown in and everything looks beautiful, you're like, all right, I'm done with this one. Let's move. Yep. Let's do another one. Tear it down.
Time to take all the rock out of it and change it.
That's what I'm about to do with this. It's 2 years in and I'm about to just, okay, it is what it is. Done.
Yeah, it's grown in, it's healthy, it's ready. Okay, now it's ready to do something else.
Now it's ready to be torn down.
Like one of the things with construction, like if you're going to do construction forever, it's repetition. It's like every house is going to have shiplap in it. Every house is going to have the same texture for 5 years, and then they're going to go, oh, everyone wants a different texture now. Which I enjoy the process of doing that. I love building stuff and I love doing it. But I do know from being a chef for so long that like doing the exact same menu, like forever, it's like, if I was going to do that, I would just go take a corporate job running Denny's,
same thing every day.
I could easily just go hammer out like 10 Denny's locations and make, $500,000 a year and just do that every day, and so, to me, it's like, the monetary rewards are there for certain things that like, I'm personally like in my life, it's not something that I want to put a lot of my life energy into, because I have put my life energy into a lot of things that you just go 20 years later, you're like, well, I guess a bunch of people ate sandwiches, you know what I mean? Or a bunch of people ate steak, and you're like, okay, and then you look across the street and McDonald's is pulling down 22 million a year, in sales. And you're like, they're selling garbage across the street, and we're doing 6 million, breaking our backs trying to put out authentic food to people, and McDonald's is just thawing things out and throwing them in the fryer across the street,
right. As a chef as well, it's a little disconcerting,
right? So I value hard work, I value that stuff, but I would also like to, and I guess it's like there should be a light at the end of the tunnel. And I don't think there's necessarily a light for me at the end of that tunnel,
Well, this segues into one of my absolute favorite questions to ask all my interviewees is, let's say tomorrow you get a little quick email that says YouTube AdSense is done. You will no longer make any money off YouTube. Would you still be passionate of getting your messages across about all your knowledge and your live streams and your videos, you know, or would that be just a nail in the coffin? Like, all right, well, I can't make money doing what I love doing this, so you know, I'm done. I'm gonna move on to the next thing.
That's easy because I've already seen that happen on other platforms. Some, you know, if somebody put all their money into MySpace, right? And who immediately comes to mind is Dane Cook, right? All of everything was invested.
He's from Boston. I love that guy.
He's a great guy, but everything he was doing was invested in MySpace, right? And then the new platform came up, and he wasn't ready for it. And
I can't believe we're that old. That sucks.
Well, his brother robbed him, so he didn't have the money to like go ahead. But if you look now, like he's super successful again. He's doing a great job. He's doing comedy shows and all that kind of stuff. And if you look at, like, for instance, the music industry, right? The music industry, there's no record sales. There's no record deals. There's none of that stuff anymore, right? So people should just stop making music. Well, they figured out, oh, I got to sell T-shirts. Oh, I got to go on tour. Oh, I got to do this. Oh, I got to do that. Because if AdSense went away, it wouldn't change what I was doing, in the fact that I certainly wouldn't stop with the message. I certainly wouldn't stop producing stuff. But I would also have to figure, like, where exactly am I going to put my energy? You know, I've gotten a ton of questions from a ton of people about, like, my Patreon, right? It's like, I don't even make money from YouTube, right? I make a tiny amount of money from YouTube. Like, let's see, you know, like last month I made like $220 from YouTube. So
yeah, YouTube is extremely insignificant amount of money, no matter how many subscribers you have. I mean, unless you're like giant, but
yeah, I mean, you know, there is a point where some people go over a hill, where they go over a crest, and it's like, well, now I make enough money from ads. Okay, but there really is no reason to only be getting paid by the ads. You know, it's why you see, like, Rachel O'Leary has a book, right? Or like Joey, like the king of DIY, has shirts, right? Like, why else would he have shirts? Like, it's part of diversifying, like, how he's able to make a living. It's how people make a living, right?
Yeah, I mean, I work a 9-to-5, and I'm trying to turn my YouTube and my side business, you know, my Aquarium Box, into something that I can put my kids on the bus in the morning and do what I love every day, and not be basically a slave to the man, which I am right now.
The thing is like, I don't show up for work because, you know, a bank says I got to pay bills. I mean, if that was the reason I got up in the morning, I would never get up. I would just be like, hey, bank, come over here and come get me, because, you know, but that's not the reason I get up in the morning. You know, the reason I get up in the morning and do stuff and make things is because of the fans, man. I mean, I don't even know if I could call them fans at this point. It's part of my community, you know, like, they are the reason I show up. As far as the fish community, right? Like, I have a ton of other things that I do on a constant basis, but, like, I don't get paid to show up for Victoria. I don't get paid to show up for my dog. I don't get paid to feed my fish. So why do I do it? It's like, none of that stuff has to do with money. So why would I only do YouTube if I was going to get paid? Right? Like, that's weird.
Well, that's a great example of an answer that I've never heard before. So that's perfect. That's why I wanted you on here.
Yeah.
You know.
So I mean, like,
at the end of the day, you do need to pay the electric bill to have your fish.
That's true. You know, and the easy explanation for that is, it's like, you know, all of the questions I've gotten from people are like, why is your Patreon as high as it is? And it's because I show up for those people that are like, hey, here's $3 this month. I watched some shows. Awesome. I learned some stuff. I laughed about some stuff. I did this, whatever, whatever their reasoning is. Or maybe somebody is like, here's $10 a month because I think you're an idiot and I want to see you fail. Like, okay, cool.
And
like, it's all good.
This is why I love your answer, because that's I'm here because when people that watch me aren't, my wife works nights. I got 4 kids, and I got nobody to talk to after everybody's in bed, and I can't leave my house. And so I send a message out. So whether I'm getting paid this or I'm getting absolutely nothing, coming on here and talking to the people and talking to the fans and just letting off some of my stress through a cell phone is all that I need.
Right. And it's one of those things like Annika O'Brien says PewDiePie made over 50 million, right? Which, yeah, that's true. Philip DeFranco makes tons of money. But if you go look at Philip DeFranco's Patreon, he's got a ton of people supporting him because they want to hear what he has to say. Does he make a ton of money from YouTube? Not anymore. Not because they demonetize him all the time. So, where is his revenue coming from? It's like, okay, he has some ads, he has some this, he has some that. And yeah, they do. But you could easily go look at a list of YouTubers that went up to 10 million subscribers and then dropped the ball, right?
Yep.
Because it's for those guys, it's like winning the lottery. Like, oops, now I'm super famous. You're like, okay, cool. Now what are you going to do? It's like, well, I don't know. All I did was burn my house down. Now I don't know what to do. And you're like, okay, well, yeah. But, whether you
on that ticket right there.
But it's like whether you like PewDiePie or you like Philip DeFranco or you like Mass Aquariums or whatever, those guys are consistently showing up to do what they say they're going to do. Oh, I'm going to make a podcast. Cool. Did you do it? Yeah. Okay. And, to me, it boils down to the same thing. Like, oftentimes the flack that I've gotten are people like, I don't understand why I'm expected to pay you to do what you want to do for your life. And I was like, first of all, I don't know how to answer that without sounding like a jerk, right? But I don't understand how you're supposed to go to a restaurant and pay a chef who wants to cook you food, right? Which is what he wants to do with his life. Like, how do you relate to that? If
the same guy is still watching you, asking you that question,
right?
He's watching.
So that's one of those things. It's like, do you go yell at the chef at the restaurant? Like, I don't understand why you're getting paid to do this. You like to do this. It just comes down to, at times, that when that negative comes from, it's because they're not here. They're not in the room. They're not standing in front of you. And that's more often than not, that's the best way that they could like try and get your attention, like, hey, over here, I'm being a douche, like come look at me.
Well, I have like 1, 2, I think 3 questions that you've just sliced way off my map, because you clearly are doing this for the passion and not for the, I guess, a necessity. Well, maybe it's a necessity for you because, you need to get up and, feed the people what they want.
Well, yeah, it's just like, I mean, it's one of those things. A lot of it comes down to, like, I'm super hyperactive and ridiculous. And like, I just got off like my show earlier today, and I was talking about having gone to a movie, and some people in the chat were like, oh, I can't sit still for 2 hours. It's like, well, I can, but I actually have to sit down and go, all right, this movie is 2 hours long. Cool. Like, I'm just going to be here for 2 hours. Like, that's what I'm doing right now. So, otherwise I'm like, I drive Vicky crazy. Vicky's the same way as me though. Like, she's always doing something. I'm always doing something. It's just the way that I am. It's like Saturday, I get up at 5:30 because I get up at 5:30, I don't sleep in,
I drive my whole house nuts.
Yeah.
I drive my 4 kids nuts and my poor wife who works. She works 7 at night to 7 in the morning. She's a nurse.
Yeah.
And so she's just like, I'm up at 4:30, 5:30, 6:30. I'm chopping wood, I'm vacuuming, I'm cleaning, I'm building this, I'm shooting a BB gun, I'm going fishing. I'm like all
Right.
over the place nonstop because I want to be doing things all
Yeah.
the time.
I mean, I always want to be doing stuff. Like Boreas is asking, do you go for runs? And yeah, like I often go for walks and runs and stuff like that. But I always have to be doing something pretty much. Like, if I'm going to not do something, I have to be meditating. Like that's kind of the deal. Like I actually have to sit down and like actually listen to a meditation and like go through my breathing and do all that kind of stuff. But otherwise I'm always just spazzing out, like just doing crazy stuff. Like, but that's just how I've always been though. Like I've always been that way. So, I think for me, it's like realistically, like I can either funnel my energy into like negative stuff or positive stuff. So I just find a bunch of positive stuff to do. Like, and that's really what it boils down to for me is like, I just want to find constructive things to do.
And have you
and it's like being a sober guy now, like I know that's not the most coolest thing to talk about very often, but like if I ever find myself like in a position where I'm like, oh no, I have nothing to do, like I can just go to a meeting. I can go to a meeting. I can talk to somebody who needs a different perspective or just needs some help with something, or somebody who's brand new and needs a mentor or whatever. Like I can go like any time of the day I could go to a meeting or whatever, so it's like, I don't know. It's never a dull moment.
There's never a dull moment in life anyway.
Yeah.
You can always find something to do, especially if you're you just have the brain type where you need something to do. I need something to do. I want to do this. I want to do that. You don't even need to want to do something. You just got to try to find to do something. That probably keeps us out of trouble for the most part.
Right.
is what usually happens.
Well, that's what got me into trouble for a long time.
Yeah. Well, when you're younger, you don't know you don't see the long picture.
Right.
I've seen, and once again, half my questions have been nullified by your lack of caring for the YouTube community and more of the just being passionate about what you do and caring too much for the YouTube community. So, all these questions I can just like wipe off the board because
it's a super easy. I don't know, man. Like, you and I got to finally meet in person at the aquatic experience when we were in Chicago. Right.
Yeah, for like 4 minutes, I think we talked.
Yeah, four to 10 minutes. Yeah, it was like, oh, I got to talk to more people. All right, I got to go. All right. But it was a perfect example. Like we were there for 3 days, come in the morning, leave at night. And the whole time we're there, it's like, oh, I got to talk to this guy. Oh, I got to talk to that guy. Oh, I got to talk. Oh, hey man, what's up? Like it's just that it's a perfect example of like, yeah, here's all these people like, cool, and to me, it doesn't need to be, I don't need to be, of course, everyone enjoys success and wants to be more successul and wants to, and naturally wants to have, oh, hey, look, I'm doing well. Right. So, the natural thing is for people to go like, well, how many subscribers do you have? Well, how many views do you have? Well, how much money you make? But, to me, the real value is like, there doesn't need to be 100 million people watching to have done a good job, to have touched somebody's life, to have taught somebody something that maybe was interested in learning something, or maybe not even. And I've seen that for a long time. I've seen that for a long time in my personal experiences where I would, like, if I was to go to the Seattle Aquarium meeting and I would just meet one person that was like, oh, hey, man, yeah, you're that guy, dude. I watched those videos, like super cool, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, Like there's like real evidence of an actual guy that I met, and it'd be like, well, there we go. That's all I really need to know. You know what I mean? Like, so that's why I kept doing it, you know, and I'm just going to keep doing it.
I agree. I agree 100%. I don't actually like to talk to people all that much in person. I hate leaving my house. I like to just like friggin' fish and chop wood and take care of my family and just be in like this tiny little bubble that I don't like to leave. And I was super nervous and not really all that thrilled about going to that show. And the amount of people that shook my hand and said, hey man, I love your videos. I got into fish tanks because of you. Or hey man, I bought this plant because of you. Or oh my God, it's so, you showed me that it's okay to screw up and you don't have to be perfect with this. And then I started getting into it and it was like amazing. Like not even there for my aquarium box or all that bullshit. It was just like talking to normal people from like 8 years old to like grannies coming up to me saying, this is great was a very inspiring moment for me to say the least. Not all the YouTube guys just like going around. Like we can fucking hang out anytime we want if we really wanted to, but just like normal people talking to me, and then I have to spend time talking back to them, and it's a real conversation was eye-opening, I guess you could say, for me.
Yeah, it was certainly cool. And, you know, the one of the things that was most surprising about it was that, you know, the way that I felt about it, that I was surprised personally, um, was like it was like 90% cool people. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I didn't.
which
I didn't
is
mean really
which is
any dicks there.
well, yeah. I mean, I can't say there were zero, right? Because that's just not true. But
No, there's a
you
percentage.
know, for that astoundingly high percentage of like 90%, you know, it is nutty. That's not normal. Um, you know, on a good day, it's 50-50 out in the world, right? You
On
know,
a good day, it's
um,
50-50. And at that aquatic show, there was maybe a 1% dick ratio to like a 50% creepy, 50% awesome.
right. Right. You know, and that's kind of the thing is that you know, just how many cool people there were. And you know, I was definitely surprised with the support and like how many cool people there were. It was a lot of fun. I mean, just going out to dinner with people, you know, and also, you know, trying to, you know, build at least a little bit bigger community. Whether it's through YouTube or just, you know, fish keepers, like that's going to be important. You know, we're gearing up to drive across the country to go to the Michigan Live Bearers Association meeting. You know, we're gonna
We drove
drive.
20 hours
We're
from
gonna
Boston
drive.
to
We're gonna
Chicago.
drive from Washington to to Michigan. It's pretty far.
How many hours is that?
I,
At least 30,
it's
right?
it's 2,600 miles. So
That's 40 something easy.
yeah, if you drive 100
2 days.
miles an hour, it would be 30 hours.
Yeah, we went from Boston to Chicago. It took us 21 hours, so I'm sure it's double that easy.
Well, luckily there's going to be three of us, so hopefully we can just keep driving in shifts or something.
I just want to warn you, that's going to be probably one of the most awesomest, shittiest trips you're ever going to take.
Oh, I've taken I've taken some pretty terrible trips. It would be that's a high bar. That's a high bar to set. I was once trapped in Canada with just my backpack on foot. I had to hitchhike back from Canada.
I was trapped in Canada only once myself. I did not have to hitchhike. My friends came back and got me when I was 20. I used to go to Canada all the time. It's about a 4-hour ride from Massachusetts straight up to Quebec.
Right.
Skiing, hiking, camping, you know, drinking when you're 18 in the 90s, didn't matter. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, we drove many times to Canada. I got this question for you. Since we've been talking about this, weirdly enough, like it was many years ago. There seems to be a lot of clicks in the YouTube community. And do you think that's natural behavior to like pick a few channels to like kind of glue to, and then like, you know, you form this little bond? Or do you think it's just like
Yeah.
the years you grow up in YouTube? Like I was a freshman to senior here. These are the people I know. These are the channels I watch. And then like it
I
just
think,
keeps growing.
yeah, I think that's part of it. I think that's part of it for sure. Um, like first of all, we do have to remember that it's computer controlled, right? Um, so you know, and let's be honest here, like YouTube has an idea of what the algorithm does, but it's only a rough idea of what it's doing, right? And I think they fully admit that whenever they make a video about what it's doing, and then they go 5 minutes later, oh, wait a minute, it's doing something else now.
I've been hearing a lot about algorithms
right.
with channels lately.
Part
What
of
you
what,
need to do to get your shit watched.
well, that's the thing, is that like part of what YouTube does is it serves up a video that could be like what you like, right?
Right.
So if you and I make a really similar video, chances are somebody down the line will watch this one and then that one.
It'll say
then,
recommended for you.
Right, right. And then over the years, like a natural click is going to come together with certain people, like whether it's geographical. Like if you and I lived on the same block, like in real life, you and I would probably be walking back and forth to each other's houses, like, and probably working on stuff together, you know?
Yep.
Whereas somebody who lives in Japan, you got to you have to fly across an ocean. It's not going to be as common to work together, you know?
My business partner, for example, lives 20 minutes away from me.
Right. And then
we created a business probably on the backbone of living right next to each other.
Right. Yeah. So it's, you know, a lot of that stuff makes sense when you go, okay, geographically, like me and Aqua Pros or something, right? Instead of just constantly talking about Corey all the time. But let's say that Mike and I were driving back and forth and we were making videos together all the time. Eventually, our two groups would have some overlap, right? And then, you know, just over time, you know, people will naturally gravitate from certain things to other things that you're like if you like, who's the guy? Like if you like LA fish tanks, right? Like the
LA fish guy?
LA fish guy. Like if you like his videos, you probably like some other people's similar videos, and probably not somebody who's like 16, right? Because you're like, oh, I want to hear from the guy who's 60 instead of, you know, somebody who's still in high school, right? So you'll probably gravitate towards more of those things. And then that's just kind of the nature of how things go. It's like, do you like rock music or rap music? You're probably going to listen to more rap if you like rap. You know what I mean? So
I like both.
And then it just becomes normal that people will just do that you just end up on that team because you listen to them all the time. Like Greg Jones is saying, like a Taylor Swift song or something. Yeah, it's like Taylor Swift fans know the record, right? Like they know the record and they're like, I'm all for Taylor Swift. And you're like, do you know her as a person though? You know, which, I mean, realistically, like a big part of what I was doing with my show is to give people an actual opening of like, here's who I am, you know, instead of sticking to like 5-minute videos, right? Like I do like making the 5-minute videos, like here's a thing, here's how I made it, boop, 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 cool, right? But I felt like doing the longer format shows would just allow people to start to learn like, oh, okay, that's that guy. He's consistently this. Oh, he learned something new. Now he's doing it this way, blah, blah, blah. Instead of trying to serve up, you know, 30-second portions, I feel like I feel like I'm trying to engage more with like the podcast crowd,
I would actually, I prefer live streams now. And if I actually didn't work a 9 to 5 and I had the time to, you know, get it all professional, I would prefer to do this and just talk with the people on a real level in real time, as opposed to just shooting stupid shit for a 5 minute video that,
right.
you know, does it suffice your needs or your fans' needs, or like why are you even doing it? Do you have the, energy to hit the record button and do all the rest of it takes to get the 5 minute video up? I
Yeah.
love the live
I mean,
streams. That's why I love watching you guys go on the
yeah.
reef drive.
And I mean, I love doing the produced videos too. But and I still make those. I still make a couple of those a week, and they're fun to do. And for some people, like they only have 5 minutes, right? So they can only, take in hey, here's how to do a water change really easily. Like, I just need the information right now. Like, all right, which makes sense. Some people are super duper busy and they just want a question answered, and that's all that they want to do. But like for me, like I said, I listened to Art Bell, with the crazy Bigfoot theories and alien theories and all that kind of stuff. And he would interview people on there and he would play clips and stuff like that. And it's like, to me, like, I never met Art Bell. I don't even know what he looks like, right? But I know his voice and I know the character of the guy. Like, he's just a good guy. That sometimes like BS would come up and he'd be like, nope, well, I got to let everybody know that was completely incorrect and not verified and blah, 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 blah. But he would like let you know later on, like, oh, turns out that was a fake report. Somebody was screwing with us and this and that and the other thing. And, I try to do that on a regular basis. And I don't feel like that necessarily gets conveyed if I make a video and goes, and it's like a 4-minute video and I go, don't dirt your aquarium because this, and this, right? And that's it.
I would think the best way to make the video is to.
So here's the thing, like,
say both of the reasons why.
Right, but then what ends up happening is a one-way conversation, right? It turns into a one-way conversation where I say a thing and then people are like, well, what about this? And then they don't hear from me for 39 hours, right? And then I'm like, oh, well, blah, 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 right? And they're like, and then they have to wait because I'm traveling, right? And then they don't hear back for 2 weeks. And I'm like, oh, I got to respond to this. I forgot. But, and then by then they're like, I hate this guy. This is ridiculous. You're like, he thinks he's a big deal, and you're like, I don't know. But that kind of stuff like really turns into a one-way conversation, in my opinion. Right. And it's great and everything to respond to people's like questions and stuff. But, when 32 hours has gone by, like that clock is ticking, and those people are just like, yeah, whatever, man. I don't care now,
Well, it's very difficult to stay relevant. And,
right. It's not contextual and it's not relevant to somebody like having an actual conversation. Whereas like, YouTube has made the improvement, right, that the live chat like scrolls back on a replay on a live stream, which is amazing because I used to have to do that manually, right? Like I used to have to feed it into the video. I used to have to rip it and feed it into the video so that it was there, so that when people rewatch, they would go, oh, okay, here's what's happening. Here's what's happening. Like reading as the video was playing, right? And I also think it's available that like if somebody was to see a video of mine and they could like pop up and go, oh, here's this guy's schedule, right? Oh, he's on Wednesdays at 3 o'clock, whatever that is for me. On Wednesday, I'm going to go ask him about this thing. But then, they show up, it's too busy. Maybe I missed their question or whatever, right? But not only do I post, a forum that they could post to, a free email address that they could send a question to, like when those questions will be answered. Like Fridays, I normally go through all of the compiled questions that I've had from the week, other than the ones that are like, hey man, what kind of pants you wear? And it's like, I wear pants, man. You can find them on the internet. It's cool.
I've
Oh
had
man,
this.
Ron R fell asleep. Oh, drag Ron. Ron, don't fall asleep.
So I want you to
sorry.
go with this for like a couple minutes. See if you can read the chat as well, because I've been dying to. I've talked to a few people about this, but kind of what you guys do is. So I think what would be great for the community is what you're doing, but more organized, like sort of like a radio station. Like you have your blocks. You have these people are on from, the morning drive, the afternoon drive, the midday drive, the
Right.
late night drive. I've always dreamed of seeing, like, instead of people having random live streams going at all the time, like blocks of live streams that can be sponsored.
Right.
Aquarium companies will want to sponsor these things,
Yeah.
and get people on that, like yourself and Corey, that just gel together, and you guys just have like a great live stream, and then you have your 2-3 hour block, and then it goes to the next person's block, and
Right.
people tune in, and you can get ratings. I think that would be absolutely amazing. So
Well,
I want to let you
I'm not.
go
The
off on
thing
that
is,
for a couple minutes.
yeah, the thing is that like I would be lying if I said, "Oh, Corey and I don't want that. We don't want to do that," because we do. Of course, we want to do that. Oh, I lost your video. You fell off.
No, I just put it on my face for a sec.
Oh.
The mass aquariums thing.
But of course, like that's of course, Corey. That's what Corey and I want to do. You know what I mean? Like we want to be able to do shows like that. We want to bring other people in. We have brought in some guests and stuff. It has been problematic trying to schedule people because that's a big part of just the issue of the world is like, hey man, you're supposed to be here at 2 o'clock and then they don't show up or whatever. Also, like like trying to coordinate people has become problematic with certain people that want to go. And, even in the chat earlier today, I saw people posting up that there were certain people that they want to come on to Corey and I show, onto the Real Fish Talk, but they're not available. Like they're not available to come on and be on the show. So, ultimately, like that's our goal, is to have a show and have a show at a regular time, which is why we do it at the exact same time every week. Yeah, the goal is to continue to expand on that. And if there is a point in time where we can start backing up back to front other shows and stuff like that, I think I've noticed that a lot of people know that Monday, Wednesday, Friday is when my show goes. And there just isn't a lot of people that schedule theirs at the same time. And I think that's just out of like courtesy. You know what I mean? I think it's just people being courteous that like, well, there's like going to be a couple hundred people on this dude's show. So, I should probably start mine like right after. Although at the same time, I've had people show up into my chat like, I'm starting my live stream right now. Peace, and it's like, what?
So that's
like,
that's a amazing topic that I really am trying to get like across to a lot of YouTubers is like I try to start my shows at 9, and I always do a quick like scan through the YouTube, my YouTube people that I'm subscribed to. And if someone else is doing a live stream that I know a lot of people are going to be on, it's a fine line because I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but then again, I feel like, you know, it's kind of like TV where like, I can flip through the channels. I watch Joel for a little while, then I watch Mike for a little while, then I watch this guy for a little while. But
right, and you know, there are tons of shows that are on, and you know, like I said, a big part of it is scheduling personalities. You know what I mean? Like, and some people that I've talked to are like, no, man, I would never go on that with you, you know, to me. And I'm like, cool, man. Then I guess that's a no, right? See you later, you know. And that's fine, you know. That's just a reality of the thing. It's like not every single person is going to get along in the world, but I mean, realistically, that's my goal, is to get more YouTubers engaged, doing more things, doing more charity things that I think are really important.
yes, giving is very important.
You know, people that have huge, you know, have these huge audiences should be, in my opinion, and this might be wrong, but this is my opinion, is that those people that do have that huge avenue, like, I feel like they have a responsibility to do way more than just the occasional, like, oh, there's a thing. Oh, there's a thing. But I also don't know a lot. I don't know all of them. You know, I have been around for a really long time and had a lot of, you know, behind the scenes conversations where you really start to get an idea of who somebody acts like when they're on video, and then who they are when they're not on video. And of course, I'm not going to name names or anything like that, but that has come up from time to time. And so some of that does go on. And we've, you know, I think what Corey and I are trying to do is, you know, build spaces for people that would make it plausible to do, you know, a saltwater show, a cichlid show, a planted tank show, whatever, you know,
a terrarium, a paludarium, of this or that.
You know, and the thing is like, I wouldn't want to be the only person doing it all the time, right? You know, because it would be chaos to listen to me talk for 60 hours a week. Like, I don't even know if I could pull that off. There would just get to a point where I'd just be saying random words, you know, like, oh, the ostrich is on fire. It's weird, you know. And yeah, we definitely are trying our darndest to like drag more people along.
Well, please keep trying, because I'm an open book as far as everything goes. I mean, there's no acting. There's just, it is who I am. I tell it like it is. I'm a family man.
Yeah, but here's one of the weird things is like, I think that, you know, one of the biggest things that I encounter is that, you know, like, first of all, there are a lot of people that are super disorganized, right? And they're like, they have good intention to do something at some point in time, but it never hits the to-do list. You know what I mean? But the other thing is that kind of, you know, certain people I've talked to over the years, they're like, yeah, I'll totally email you. They'll take your card, you know, and like, oh, cool, I've got your email address right here. And then they never do, right? And you're like, okay, I guess that's a telltale sign. And you know, there are certain people that I've emailed and contacted, and then it's like, yeah, well, I don't know, like, yeah, maybe like in a month or something, you know. And you're like, oh, you're that busy? Okay, cool. Like, that's all good with me, you know. I think one of the funnier things that I got was somebody told me once, they were like, you know, it'd be better suited for your time to it'd be better suited for your time to spend it somewhere else. You know, and it was like,
is that the asshole way of just saying a polite no?
Yeah, it's just like the nicest FU that you've ever heard. You know what I mean? Like, what just happened? Really? Like, what? You know, it's like, it almost feel like if it was the 1800s, it would have been like, oh, I'm not going to hit you with this white glove, but I'm going to let you know that I have one, you know. And
And if you challenge me to a duel,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like gentlemen at dawn.
I personally think, and I've talked to a lot of people about this, and I've never talked to you about this, via the inter messages on the phone skis, but I think there's a real way to get all of the people that are trying to spread a message in an organized way to block out a. Have you ever listened to Pet Life Radio?
You know what? I don't think I have ever have, but
Well, Pet Life Radio has
I
been on for a
recognize
while.
the name, but
I've
not.
I was on Dr. Roy's radio station for Pet Life Radio a few years ago, talking about my Aquarium Box and all that jazz, and my channel and blah blah blah. And it was interesting how they did it, just super professional, and there was sponsors and everything. And if people in the it's so weird. Like, I don't mean to say it like I'm a big dick or an asshole, but if people would just like get along and realize that we all have something to offer, and it would take popular channels like us to bring it together and block out these segments and actually have a radio station where people fucking tune in all day long, whether it's 6 o'clock in the morning or it's 3 o'clock at night. There are people that are in parts of the world that are always listening, and
Yeah.
I just think it could happen, and I think you guys are pioneering it, and I love to see the growth that you guys have going.
Well, I think I think the biggest problem, realistically, in regards to that, is just running into ego. And that's the basic issue that you get across the board with humans. You know what I mean? So it's not that weird.
Well, it has to be a matter of fact of
there are a lot of big egos
swallowing your pride.
Yeah, I mean, there just are a lot of big egos out there that certain people that I've talked to also are like, oh, I've got blah 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 blah. Like, what are you going to pay me to come on your show? And it's like, no, we're not going to pay.
That's not the way it works.
Yeah, it's like, that's not how this is going to work. You know what I mean? So, and some people like that, where it's just like, okay, cool, man, see you later. It's all good.
Well, that's where the clicks form that I really, I don't have any tolerance for, is he said, she said thing. It's like, we're all in this together, and as soon as everybody can realize that once they swallow their pride and start giving to the community and doing a great job, everybody benefits in the long run.
Right.
We all become a part of like one solid message. But
yeah, and it's like, it's just one of those things. Like, I'm trying to think of a rock star that's less than cool. Let's see. It's like Axl Rose. There's always going to be an Axl Rose, right? There you go. There's always going to be an Axl Rose that's like, he thinks he's larger than life, and it causes a problem with the whole entire band. Which is it's just a reality of life. And I think it's unfortunate for some of those people that like they have to end up with the humility, sometimes.
Well, and, I think it would benefit everybody to play nice and just realize there is a niche, however you pronounce it, that we have, and I think it's the messages that we purvey. There's a lot of BS in between, but there's a lot of good information that people can retain and help them along the way. And when everybody realizes that that's what we're here for, because we're not on fucking NBC or Fox or whatever, like,
right.
I think it's better for everybody.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that, like, we do have an opportunity in the 21st century to be independent. You know what I mean? And that's just a reality, and I think that there's, man, I don't know. It's hard to relate because like some people just want it to happen and they don't actually want to do the work or whatever. But like it really is a pain in the butt to get a lot of the stuff done from time to time. And those are the guys that just miss the opportunity anyhow. So they're just going to keep doing whatever they're doing,
Here's one question I'd like to ask you, and this is one of the one I nixed a half hour ago, but I always like to know, and I feel like I already know what your answer is going to be anyway, but I'd like to ask you anyway. I've been on YouTube for, I believe, probably 4 years, and you've been grinding at it for a while. And do you ever get jealous of the newer channels that have come after, let's say, our channels that are just like soaring? They're just like 30, 40, 50, 60, 70,000 subscribers. They're just like, working the algorithms. They're working the thumbnails. They're working this. And maybe they don't really have anything to show for it, YouTube-wise, but they're just fucking flying.
If I was gonna say no, I'd be lying, man. I don't do. Oh, I'm not a human. Like,
well, exactly.
I mean, we talked about this. We talked about this earlier. That like, yeah, you want to be successful at the stuff that you do, and is it a feeling of jealousy? Is it a feeling of sadness? Is it a feeling of like, what am I doing wrong? Like, how am I not doing well? Like, but that's all a matter of perspective. You know what I mean? Like, everyone thinks that they're not doing well on the basis that somebody else is winning at the game. You know what I mean? It's like, I made my YouTube channel. I've been around since 2008. So I've been for 10 years. Okay. A lot of the initial stuff that I had up on YouTube was like, it was like jackass stuff. It was like car crashes, things on fire, like, like pulling pranks on people and stuff like that. And all that stuff got taken down. Like I took it down. I took that stuff down when I decided like, oh, the easiest way to put my fish tanks up on here would be just to make like, oh, I'll just delete all these videos and then I'll just put up this one, and so that's how that went down. Like I started in the hole, like 500,000 views 10 years ago or whatever, or 7 years ago or whatever it was. And so, no, I never really got traction. Most of the people, like the forum people and stuff like that, followed me at the time. And, but I also was like a chaotic person, and I got involved with, essentially like trying to repair some of the damage that was going on in the world from some of those characters, right? Trying to educate the people that like, look, you shouldn't follow this guy because he's lying to you about this, 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 and this, which isn't even my place, right? And yet I was trying to do that because that's, I'm about to turn 38. I've been around since.
Wait. When's your birthday?
It's in 2 weeks.
Oh, mine's May 17th. I'll be 38 on May 17th.
That's right. So being a month older than you.
Oh, come on. Are you a Taurus at least?
No, I'm Aries, man. But like, so you remember like when the internet was invented, you know what I mean? Like when the internet got turned on.
Dude, we're the same age. We went through all that shit.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I still know how to program from the DOS prompt, and so it's one of those things like, having come up and being my age that I was around when this was invented, it's always been a battle, right? And a lot of people think it's a battle, even though they don't realize that the space that we're all working in is bigger than you've ever imagined, right? Currently, right now, there's like 2.3 billion people on YouTube watching YouTube, right? There's supposed to be 3
That's like billion. A quarter of the world right now.
Well, yeah, but over the next 2 to 3 years, 3 billion people are coming to YouTube. More, on top of what is now. So if you just look at it in terms like that, and the fact, here's one of the things that I tell people that confuses them. Like the most popular TV show in the United States only has like 7 million viewers, right? So it's, you know, it's one of those things that like, would I be jealous? If I was like, for instance, if I was jealous of like Rachel O'Leary, right? Am I ever jealous of the Big Bang Theory? Am I ever jealous of the Super Bowl? Like, oh man, they're just killing it on the ratings, you know? And it's like, uh-huh. And like, what does that have to do with me? Like, so I know a lot of people get jealous, they get upset, they get this, they get that. And you know what? I get upset too when things don't go well, right? But that's just a matter of perspective. And like I said earlier, when I said I sit down and meditate, like that's a big part of me, like finding my perspective. You know, I'll put in my headphones and go walk for 45 minutes. I'll go on a hike somewhere or whatever, right? And that's just finding perspective, because if I think like, oh man, I only made $200 off YouTube, this is BS, man. PewDiePie made 50 million, like we were talking about earlier. Like, you'll never be happy with anything you ever get done. And so it's natural to have those feelings, but how do you work through them is important, you know, and that's something that I spend time on, you know, instead of, you know, if you get cut off in traffic, you could flip the bird, yell out the window, scream, pull your gun out, do something crazy, or you could just be cognizant of the other people on the freeway and try to not get in a crash and ruin everybody's day, right? So
well, that's where these live streams have I've appreciated them, because you know, I like to go fishing and camping and ice fishing and just chop wood. Like I literally can chop wood for hours and put in my earbuds and just chop wood. And that's what brings me peace, calms me down in this world. But sometimes I feel like I need to get a video out, because I've been to a certain place where now people expect me to put out videos. And it's become a little bit of a hassle, like a pain in the ass. Like I'd rather just not do it, but I do like the interaction.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's really one of those things that like, you know, it's something that's built into my week. And, you know, your initial question was like, do I get jealous of people like skyrocketing in fame? It's like, yeah, Logan Paul. Like, who wouldn't be jealous of that guy winning the lottery, basically? Because that's what that guy does every day. He wakes up in the morning and he wins the lottery again. You know, like that's what he does.
Well, let's say for fish keepers channels, like there's a lot of fish keepers out there that like we've been grinding hard, like big time for a lot of years. And nowadays it feels like you just create a fish channel, you have good tags, you have a good thumbnail, your screen looks like, you know, you have like a giant friggin' whatever hanging out of your nose, and then boom, and you get like 400,000 views in like a day.
Right. But I have to ask the question, whose fault is that?
My fault probably for not getting up to speed with that shit.
Exactly. So, you know, if I'm upset about something like that, but if I'm upset about something like that, that's not that person's fault for doing well, right? That's my fault for not doing a good enough job and not knowing that stuff or anything like that. But, you know, I don't wake up in the morning and go, the guys who are on the Major League Baseball announcer guys that just follow around the Red Sox all year and just talk about, oh gosh, what's his name? Chase Utley scratching his crotch all year. You know what I mean? Like, I don't get mad at those dudes and be like, oh, those guys are super successful. This is BS, man. They got like a whole thing going on and they got a camera crew following them around and everybody's watching. You know, I don't get mad about that stuff. Everyone gets jealous. Everyone gets upset sometimes. That's completely normal.
It's human behavior.
Yeah, it's how you deal with it. how do you deal with it? How do you come back from failure? Everyone's going to fail at some point in time, and like I mentioned Logan Paul earlier, he's just continuing to fail at being a good person. I mean, he's showing dead bodies on YouTube. He's doing all this crazy stuff. And yeah, he keeps winning the lottery. But I think a guy that's in the news again is Corey Feldman. That guy just kept winning the lottery. And now he's trying to claim that somebody stabbed him the other day. And the police were like, no, he hasn't been stabbed. We don't know what he's talking about. So it's crazy. It's a crazy mess. And everyone's going to feel jealous at some time of something. It's just how you respond to it is what's really important,
So I got one last question for you, and then I'm going to let you interact with the fans for a few minutes and then let you go. Well, Jesus, it's only like friggin' 7:30, but I'll let you go watch a movie with Vicky or whatever. Whatever your plans are for the rest of the night. Probably no, you're done live streaming. My last question that I don't really give a shit if anybody wants to know, but I want to know, do you think Seattle will ever make it to another Super Bowl?
To a Super Bowl? Yes.
Because I don't think so.
They will. And here's why I know why.
In the NFC. Yeah. Facing Drew Brees and all these young guns, Philly,
Drew
Minnesota.
Brees is 100 years old. Okay. All right. But yes, the Seattle Seahawks will. And I'll tell you why. It's a pretty easy explanation.
Well, I can't wait for this. This is my bread and butter right here, son.
Yeah. Well, Paul Allen, our owner, has built an ownership that is a solid. It's not like a solid organization. It's insanely
solid, but not solid.
No, I was saying that it's an insanely good organization. It's a beautifully built company, and that's what Paul Allen does. Paul Allen's not a football guy per se. He's a big business guy. That's what he does, and he's done a great job. And if you look at it with Mike Holmgren initially taking us to the Super Bowl, right? With that regime, they did it, and they built a good team. And then obviously that team aged out. They fell apart. We got a crappy coach for a year, and then they got Pete Carroll, and they built it up again. Now, if you're asking the question whether or not Pete Carroll will go back to the Super Bowl or not, I don't know at this point because
wait. Stop. Let me rephrase it. Will the Seattle Seahawks go to the Super Bowl in Russell Wilson's era? Because in a general era, yes, they'll make it back there. Let's talk Russell Wilson's time at Seattle.
I think within Russell Wilson's time, yes. And the reason for that is you brought up the guy who's the perfect example is Drew Brees. He's built like Drew Brees. So there will be more opportunity for him to come back. He's just like a stronger version of Drew Brees, so he's just more durable than Drew Brees is. He's built like Fran Tarkington. So it's like you tackle him, he gets up, he's not like,
you have lost a lot of players this year.
That's true. They sold off a lot of players. That's why I was saying, that's why I was saying that with Pete Carroll, I don't know. This is probably Pete Carroll's last season, but in Russell Wilson's time, I mean, yeah, he's got a lot more years left. And he whether or not it comes down to it, I don't even think it necessarily comes down to the physicality, realistically, because of like Tom Brady's a perfect example. The guy just knows where to throw the ball. So if a quarterback can make good decisions during the game, then yeah, they can keep playing football for a long time and keep having success. Whether or not Russell Wilson has nightmares about not throwing the ball away like he was supposed to in the Super Bowl, I bet he does have serious nightmares about that. He probably wakes up in cold sweats all the time that his coaches said, drop back. If there's no throw it out of the end zone. But he never did. And everyone blames it on Pete Carroll for not handing it to Marshawn Lynch.
No, we don't need to rehash that.
No. But I'm
You like
saying
to
whether or
bust
not
shit out of your
I'm
balls.
I'm saying that whether psychologically Russell Wilson can get over that or not. I don't know. I'm not around the dude, but it is possible.
As a football fan, there are legitimately only a handful of quarterbacks me and you will see in our lifetime that are truly, truly great. And let's talk about from the time we were born in 1980 till whenever we're going to die. And, who knows?
Mm-hmm. That's a huge list, though.
Well, is Russell Wilson bringing the NFC back to the Super Bowl before he's, done?
Well, I mean, let's see. I'm trying to think of who else is in the NFC. I mean, there's Aaron Rodgers, who's clearly the best quarterback in the NFC, right?
In the NFC, 100%. Drew Brees, Carson Wentz.
Drew Brees. Oh, Carson Wentz is a joke. If Carson Wentz puts together 3 or 4 more seasons, okay. But you start to talk about a second-year guy and then go like, oh, he's fantastic. Like, okay, yes, he's good.
He hasn't won anything yet, but
he already broke his leg. He already broke his leg making bad quarterback decisions. That's a problem.
Yeah. These quarterbacks don't understand you need to stay in the pocket if you want to stay healthy.
Yeah, you have to. You just have to. Like, you cannot get injured. Like, I mean, you look at it, like, where did Russell Wilson come from? Russell Wilson was supposed to be the backup, right?
He's mobile, though. He's mobile.
No, he was supposed to be the backup. Like, he was drafted to be the backup. We brought in Aaron Rodgers backup to be our starter.
Oh yeah, you guys brought in Matt Flynn.
Yeah, so who ended up going to the Raiders and is a disaster. But that's an old story now. But yeah, it's just Russell Wilson's easily. I mean, he's easily in the top 8 in the NFL, just talent wise. Like, it just and with a track record. You know what I mean? It's like, people could throw somebody like Carson Wentz up there, but it's like, yeah, he doesn't have a track record and he already injured himself. So for no reason and didn't need to, so it's a little bit, football's crazy. We could definitely talk about football for hours on end. And I certainly could.
I could talk about it for about 5 days straight.
Yeah, we might have to do a football live stream where we just argue about Tom Brady, whether or not we got to kiss all of his rings. But, my buddy's from Boston. He's always just doing this to me, and how many is it now? Is it 7 now? Is it 10? It's confusing. It's confusing.
It's pretty easy,
But
I don't gloat. I don't like to gloat. I'm born here, so I'm allowed to.
It's also legitimate.
Say whatever I want.
I mean, it's also legitimate that the Seahawks should have 2 rings, and I'm not even talking about the Boston game. I'm talking about the first time we went to the Super Bowl and against Pittsburgh, and all the refs came out later on and said, "Yeah, we threw the game. Like, we really."
Dude, Sean Alexander was on the friggin' cover of Madden that year because of that year.
Right.
Didn't he break the friggin' record?
Yeah.
Like the rushing record?
We should have had the Super Bowl. And like I said, the refs came out later and even said, yeah, that was our fault. They should have won. Yes, we messed it up, but what are you going to do? You can't go back and change the past. So there's nothing they can do. So, but the Seahawks should have 2 rings. But here's the real question. Do you think the Mariners will ever not make it to the World Series? Will they even make it to the playoffs? The postseason? Will they even make it to the postseason before you and I die? Because this feels like really the new curse is the Seattle Mariners.
I'm a huge baseball fan as well as football fan. I was a basketball fan when Michael Jordan and Larry Bird were relevant. So I don't give a shit about basketball anymore. Hockey, I have always loved hockey only because my dad loves hockey. But I'm a football guy and a baseball guy next. The Mariners will not make it to the playoffs before you die. I don't think they doesn't care about spending money on players at
I
all.
don't think they will either. I mean, that's 15 years since they've been to the postseason, man. It's insane.
They had Alex Rodriguez and did not build a team around.
Oh no. Oh no. Hold on a second. They had Alex Rodriguez. They had Randy Johnson. They had
And Ichiro.
Ken Griffey Jr. Right?
Well, Ken Griffey Jr. is a legend.
All at the same time. They were all there.
That's pathetic,
insane.
right there.
It's retarded. It's ridiculous.
That's a dream team.
Yeah.
That's a steroid era dream team.
There literally was a point in time where the Mariners had the dream team and couldn't even win a playoff series. Oh, it's abysmal. But yeah.
We may have to schedule a live stream a few months from now and have a sports live stream. But for now,
we'll do a sports stream. But yeah, I got to get back to I got to get my stuff done here.
Yeah, let's call it a night.
Yep.
I'd like to thank you personally for coming on this Q&A. I really appreciate it, Joel.
Thanks for having me, man.
It's always great to talk to you.
Yeah.
You're killing it. Everybody, thank you for all your super chats, for your comments. I appreciate all the moderators. And we'll see you on the next run.
All right. Later.
All right, folks. Peace.